Hey Wolfpack, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's story, and I hope you had a great New Year's, so happy 2022. Hopefully this year can be much better than last year. Unfortunately, Betty White passed away the other day, and that's quite a shitty way to end the year, to be honest. But hopefully this year turns out to be much better. Me and my family are also completely fine from the accident, and my car will be fixed in February, so things will be fine. So, with that said, today we're reading 3 scary delivery driver stories. So, with that said, whether you're sitting around a campfire, on the night shift, or even laying in bed, let my voice soothe your nightmares. Whew! It's been a while since this happened. Possibly the scariest experience I've ever had. Ever. Let me take you back to the time I was 14, home alone and with a hunger for a good stuffed crust pizza. It was around noonish. I can't fully remember. I had my phone by my side and there was nothing good in the fridge. Just ingredients, and I'm shit at cooking. But what if somebody else could cook for me? Maybe a local pizzeria? So, I downloaded their app, and yes, I know you have to be 18 to order pizza, but who cares? I'm hungry, and the food in the fridge won't cook itself. So, I order a pretty standard small pizza. Come on, I'm not going to eat like 1,200 calories in one go. Like an 8-inch small with extra cheese and a few red peppers on top, some pepperoni here and there, and a soda. That all adds up to roughly $18/pound/whatever. I tap the button that says I'll pay them when they get there, and I turn off my phone, throw it on the couch, and go pace my cage like a tiger waiting for food, except the tiger is slightly out of shape and in a house. I check the app again and again, wondering where my pizza was now. In the oven? On its way? After enough mindless checking, I get a notification that it's arrived. And I go to check my front door. I look through the people, bank notes in hand, and there's nothing there. No delivery driver, no pizza in a box on the floor, just a good meal of absolutely nothing. It couldn't have gotten stolen, could it? It just arrived. Could it be bad software? Maybe it was meant to say something else, like it's on its way now. And some overworked developer got mixed up with variable 1 and 2. So, I go back to check my phone again this time, and it's just been bombarded with notifications. Somebody really wants me to know my pizza was here. My phone had thousands of notifications. So, I go back to my people, phone in hand and expecting to see something, and nope, still nothing. So I go back to the slot machine of notifications, and it strangely enough changed from your pizza is here to it is here. Now, I get that the it here could still be referring to my pizza, but why would it change? Software doesn't magically change unless it's updated or told so. So, I just give up all hope and cancel my order, uninstall the app and just sit with an empty stomach. But one more alert slipped through, and it wasn't your run-of-the-mill, your ex is here message just like earlier. It's, I'm still here, pick me up, which was obviously fucking fake. The pizza wasn't here 15 seconds ago. Why would it be here now? So, I walk up with a slight, heavy sigh, just to check one last time. And sure enough, the pizza is here, with no delivery driver to take the cash. But you know what? I'm not complaining. Free pizza and a soda. I open the front door, carefully pick up the box, and lock the door behind me. Marching to the dining table with 8 inches of doughy heaven, I wait and browse YouTube for a while, prop up my phone on the fruit bowl, and tuck in while watching something, and I get the creepiest fucking notification I think I will ever receive in my life. We can see you're enjoying it. What the fuck? I just wanted to watch JonTron while eating pizza, not get spied on. 14-year-old me is obviously creeped out by this, and I go and pocket my phone. Slightly more aware of my surroundings, I go and close the door to the kitchen, just in case. I can feel my phone vibrating as it gets more notifications, probably filling up with more creepy shit. I finished the pizza, which was surprisingly not poisoned, and decide to keep the Coke for later. Tap water will do just fine, thanks. Again, I checked the phone, glancing at a few alerts that read, "What a handsome boy," and "We're coming to pick up the money." Fuck no. Nope, I'm getting a knife, and that's it. I'm hiding under my bed, when I hear the front door unlock and a person come in. Footsteps down the corridor, and I hear a person right outside of the doorway to my room. My knuckles go white. The door swiftly opens, and it's my father. Jesus Christ, that was scary. My dad sees me under the bed and asks why I'm under there. Two weirded out parents, and a long talk later, everything was fine. But I still look behind me every once in a while to see if there's a murderous pizza delivery guy behind me once in a while. Order again soon. The ceiling looked like it was caving in. Of course it wasn't, but it looked like it was. Or was it? I slouched in my armchair and leaned back. My head felt like a bowling ball filled with soup. I hated this. My stomach growled, maybe from hunger, maybe from the antibiotics. Either way, food would solve the problem. Food should solve the problem. Food. I ordered pizza an hour ago. Was it an hour? My eyes creaked in my skull as they looked at the giant clock on the wall. It was backwards and the numbers weren't spaced right. Some were downright falling out of the frame. I had no idea what time it was. It smelled bad in here. I could feel them, the smells. Every move I made, they punched my brain with a pillowcase filled with month-old potato peels. I looked down. My shirt was rumpled, its stains winking at me. My pants were dark. I couldn't see the stains, but their potato peel pillow was punching my brain. I didn't know antibiotics could cause hallucinations this vivid. Maybe it was because I had an odd imagination. Or maybe it was because I watched too many movies. Or maybe it was because I lived alone and had no one to distract me. Whatever it was, I just wanted to finish my treatment regimen and get back to my life. Only a few more days to go. And only a few more pills to go. There was a knock on the door. Food. I had paid online, and I added a note asking the delivery man to leave the box on my welcome mat. I waited a few seconds to make sure he left. There was another knock, a more impatient one. I frowned. They probably didn't understand my note. I got up, then I sat back down and waited for my head to join me. I got up again and stumbled to the door. The rug was rippling. There must be a draft, and that would explain the chills. But why was I sweating? I hated this. I opened the door and the pizza delivery man walked in carrying my pizza. He shut the door, locked it, and pushed me back into the living room. "Stay there. Be quiet and don't move," he said, sitting me down in my armchair. His voice was like pureed leather pouring over my brain. He slid the pizza box on the coffee table and went around closing my curtains. I watched him. This wasn't real. He wasn't real, was he? "Do you live alone?" he asked. "Are you real?" "No," he replied, his voice now coming from the kitchen. "But the pizza is real. Eat." Okay. The pizza was real. It smelled good. So good. It wasn't a potato peel pillow punch. It was a gooey massage. I picked up a slice and took a bite. The hot cheese stuck to my face like glue. I yelped and dropped the slice on my lap, then yelped again. The slice fell to the floor. I crawled off the glue strands, cheese strands. They left a throbbing shadow on my face. I picked up a new slice and peeled the cover off. Just the bed was left. The doughy bed. I stuffed it in my mouth. I did that to 5 more slices. The covers were piled on top of each other like one big blob. The blob crawled to the edge of the pizza box, leaving a soft slime trail. I poked at the blob. It was soft like warm rubber. I poked it until my finger went all the way through it, and it oozed oily blood. I leaned back in the armchair, victorious. My head stopped leaning back, but my brain kept going. My stomach didn't like that. Then I threw up. I groaned and pulled my shirt away from me. Chunks of vomit raced off my chest towards the pool on my lap. I tried to see if there were pills in the mix. I wasn't going through all this only to throw them up. They had to stay in. There were no pills, at least I didn't think so. The vomit pool was warm, too warm. I grabbed a few napkins and dabbed it. It sucked them in, dissolving their souls, threatening to dissolve my fingers. It was terrifying. I yelped and flailed, warm, doughy chunks flying. I jumped when my imaginary pizza delivery man came by my side. "Shh, keep it down. What are you doing?" he asked, stern, his hand on my shoulder. I grabbed his sleeve. It was crisp. It didn't feel imaginary. Or this could be a super vivid hallucination. His sleeve wrinkled as I rubbed it against his firm arm. It was like the arm of a robot. I squeezed it. It was squeezable. A squeezable robot arm. I squeezed again. I could probably pop it, and it would be filled with putty and wires. He pulled my hands away, and it hurt. "Come with me," he said. He helped me up and walked me down the hall. The vomit dribbled down my legs into the floor. I didn't want to step in it, so I began crab walking. I ended up walking backwards. My imaginary pizza delivery man sighed and turned me around. My stomach didn't like that, so I threw up again. We made it to the bathroom, and it was just a mess. "It's a mess," I said. He didn't reply, probably because it was no different than the rest of the house. He helped me get in the bathtub. It was grimy under my bare feet. He sat me down, and I was glad my pants protected my butt from the grime. He turned on the shower, and I yelped. The water stabbed me with a hail of porcupine quills, burning cold. I hugged myself, shivering. "This should help," he said. He left me alone, and I watched the vomit swirl down the drain. The water hurt, but it also numbed me. I rubbed my toes against the grime. It crumbled into a million little ants that scurried away. The drumming water was like static on an old TV. My mind was like static of an old TV. I hated this. I got up, turned off the shower, and peeled off my clothes. They plopped to the floor like a jellyfish. I kicked them behind the door, and they splatted. Their splatter made the wall start sweating. I was sweating. I was also shivering. I needed clothes. I shambled naked to my room and found a shirt and some shorts. I put them on, but I was still shivering. I needed more clothes. I found a sock and put it on my left foot. Water from my hair dripped on my face, and I licked it. It was ambrosial. My mouth was a desert, and I needed more water. I walked down the hall, weaving to avoid the vomit puddles. My left foot slipped and slid, but my right foot squeaked against the wood. It could be a language, a boring, squeaky language. I stumbled into the kitchen. My imaginary pizza delivery man was there, on my laptop. "That's my laptop," I said. "You should sleep," he said. "I want water." I whipped open a cupboard, and it slammed back shut. I whipped it open again, and steadied it. I grabbed a wine glass. My fingers felt like they were phasing through it. My hands didn't feel like they were mine. They felt like bloated, fleshy gloves filled with syrup. I took the glass to the sink and opened the faucet. The glass shattered. Globs of syrup sprouted from my fleshy glove, snaking across the creases, dripping into the sink. The drops weren't on rhythm. It was annoying. The syrup turned to acid, and it ate through my fleshy glove. I shook it, screaming. Acid spraying everywhere. What counters acid? Milk, of course. I threw myself at the fridge and grabbed the milk carton. I opened it. A potato peel pillow punch to the brain. Before I could pour milk on my fleshy glove, my imaginary pizza delivery man yanked me back to the sink and cleaned off the acid. He began wrapping the damage with a million ribbons. They swished and swooshed. It made me rather dizzy. I stumbled as he led me to the living room. More potato peel pillow punches to the brain. The armchair had vomit on it, so he sat me down on my suede couch. I usually never sit on my suede couch. "I never sit on this couch," I said. "You should sleep." I smacked my dry lips. "I didn't drink water." "Don't move." He left and returned with a paper cup, gave it to me, and left again. I drank the whole thing, but some water dribbled down my chin. I began crying. My brain sloshed behind my face. I leaned back on the couch and it flipped around, spinning faster and faster, like a swayed pig on a spit. I tossed the paper cup and grabbed my hair, wailing. I hated this. Shh, keep it down. What are you doing? My imaginary pizza delivery man asked, stern, his hand on my shoulder. I reached for his squeezable robot arm, rubbing the crisp sleeve. He pulled my hands away, and it hurt. I hate this, I moaned. I hate this, I growled. I hate this, I yelled. Shh, keep it down. Help me. I grabbed his sleeve, pulling him closer. I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. Shh. Okay, just keep it down. He sat on the suede couch next to me, and I dropped my bowling ball head on his lap. My muscles were a puddle, my limbs hanging askew. I stared at nothing as tears, snot, and drool dissected my face sideways. He patted my arm a few times. It was comforting. It was something I missed. He smelled nice. It wasn't a potato peel pillow punch. It was like being wrapped in indigo. It would be nice if he was real. Was he real? My imaginary pizza delivery man put a hand over my ear. It sounded like a seashell. He began rumbling and vibrating, on and off with no rhythm. It was like a glitchy cat purring. Robots glitch. Do robots purr? The seashell and glitchy purring lulled me to sleep, but a tsunami woke me up. I gasped and opened my eyes. Darth Vader was standing next to me, holding a paper cup in his hand. I was lying down alone on the couch, the suede couch, that now had water on it. He ruined my couch. You ruined my couch! I croaked. Darth Vader threw the empty paper cup on the floor. Where is he? He didn't sound like Darth Vader. His voice rubbed my brain like wet sandpaper, and I didn't like it. Who? Where's the man who's hiding here? Man? Don't play games with me. He showed me his gun. It was black, just like his outfit, just like his mask, just like his gloves. If I squinted, it looked like he wasn't holding anything at all. I snorted. He wasn't real, was he? You think this is funny? He asked. Are you real? I asked. What? I tried to sit up, but my head was too heavy, so my right leg rose instead. It stretched all the way up to the ceiling. What's wrong with you? My imaginary Darth Vader asked. Are you high? No, the opposite, low. I feel low and I hate it. I hate this. I feel lower than a foot, but not my right foot because it's all the way up there. Jesus Christ, he huffed. I wondered if huffing would fog up his mask. Was it a mask? It could be his face. Maybe he was a robot. My brain twitched as I remembered my imaginary pizza delivery man. This was an imaginary robot reunion. A man entered your house earlier today, my imaginary Darth Vader said. Where is he? I don't know. We searched your house top to bottom. Where could someone like him hide? Under the bed? Somewhere not obvious? Over the bed? He grabbed my shirt. It felt real, or maybe it was still a super vivid hallucination. He pulled me up and I groaned as my head spun and my stomach lurked. His fist pressed against my face as he held me up by my shirt. It hurt a lot. He smelled like Kevlar. Did Kevlar have a smell? If it did, it would smell like this. Like a stern shadow, it made my stomach lurk even more. I don't have time for games, he said. Where could he hide? Behind the curtains? A sharp pain shattered my face and sent fragments flying. I cried out, my heart sputtering. I put my hands up, trying to put the pieces back. My eyes were stinging, blurry, floating in an alternate dimension to look for shards of my face. Now you listen carefully, my imaginary Darth Vader said. Do you have a place in your house where someone could hide without being easily found? I did. The attic had a false ceiling. The original owner wanted to create an insulated lair. It was also where they found him, dead and stuck between ceilings. It was a very good hiding place. They only found him because he began to leak. My imaginary pizza delivery man didn't leak. If he was smart, that's where he'd hide. My head was the size of a beach ball, and it expanded with each piercing throb as I trembled in my imaginary Darth Vader's grip. My heart pinballed inside my chest. I didn't want to get hit again, but I had chosen a side, and it wasn't the dark side. If my imaginary pizza delivery man was in the attic, then I had to lead my imaginary Darth Vader in the opposite direction. What was the opposite of an attic? A basement. Basement? I said. You don't have a fucking basement. He was right. I didn't. He began buzzing. Maybe he was malfunctioning. He lifted his hand and I flinched. My flailed arms shielded my crumbling face. I waited for the punch, but his hand didn't come down. It stayed next to his ear. He said in an impatient, "What?" And then a confused, "What?" Then he dropped me. I collapsed onto myself like a marionette and fell on my back, cracking my skull against the floor. It made bells go off in my ears and strobe lights go off in my eyes. I felt like I was spinning in a vortex. Then it became quiet. So quiet. Too quiet. I moaned to check if my ears worked, and they did. My nose still worked too because I could smell blood and old vomit. I couldn't smell Kevlar anymore though. Did my imaginary Darth Vader leave? Was he even here to begin with? I tried to sit up, but my head disintegrated, and I lied back down and closed my eyes. I touched my face with delicate pats. It was big and soft and tender, like a giant teddy bear with cotton spilling out. The pain was elastic, stretching, engulfing. I gasped as the pain became taut and intense. Icy pressure on my hollow face felt like a vacuum sucking in the scattered fragments and blending them into paste. I was wrapped in indigo. I cracked open my eyelids. My imaginary pizza delivery man was kneeling on the floor next to me. He grabbed my hand, and I winced as he pressed it against my crinkly, frosty face. "Hold that there and don't move until the ambulance arrives," he said. "Are you real?" "No. You're just having a bad reaction to your antibiotics. You should have called someone sooner." How did he know about the antibiotics? Did he go snooping around my house? And again, if he was a hallucination, he would know since he lived in my mind. He stood up. "Don't go," I said. He looked at me for a few seconds, then he walked over to the window and peeked through the curtains. Sirens wobbled in the distance. Their wail tossed my brain back and forth. I squeezed my eyes shut as they got louder, gnawing at my nerves. I groaned. I hated this. "I hate this," I said. There was no reply. The indigo wrap was unraveling. The sirens stopped. There was commotion. I opened my eyes. My imaginary pizza delivery man was gone. In his place were paramedics. Or, it seemed that way. One of them kneeled next to me and I looked at her. Are you real?" She was real. At the hospital I was treated for a concussion, a zygomatic fracture, and lacerations across my palm. I was also pulled off the antibiotics. When my mind cleared, I told the doctors what happened. They called the police who checked my house. They said there was no evidence that anyone other than me had been there. They said I hallucinated it all. They said a woman delivered my pizza and she left it on my welcome mat as per my note. They said I most likely collected my pizza, ate it, threw up, took a shower, got dressed, and went to the kitchen for a drink. They said I most likely cut my hand on the glass, bandaged it up, felt lightheaded and fainted, and smacking my face on the counter before falling beside the humming fridge. They said I most likely came to, grabbed a bag of frozen peas from the freezer, poured myself a cup of water, and shambled to my suede couch, where I tried to drink, spilled water on myself and lied down. They said I most likely felt the need for medical attention, reached for my cell phone on the table, fell off the couch, and cracked my head on the floor. They said I most likely pressed the bag of frozen peas to my swollen face as I called 911, and they recorded me groaning and talking to myself. They said I was lucky. They said I was reckless. They said I should have called my doctor the moment I began experiencing hallucinatory side effects. They also said they were impressed by how expertly I bandaged my lacerated palm one-handed despite everything. They commended my first aid training. I never had first aid training. A chill gripped my heart. It was real. All of it. I was alone and compromised while two strange men entered my home, one sympathetic and gentle yet manipulative, and the other cold and brutal. My potent disorientation had dulled the actual danger around me. My hallucinations were an irritating norm, while my unfocused mind constantly meandered, and I never absorbed the gravity of my situation until now. I was involuntarily included in whatever drama they had between them. They could have done anything to me. They could have convinced me of anything, and I wouldn't have had the mental or physical capacity to stop them. The doctors and the police were right. I was lucky. My last pizza delivery shift ended up in an unexpected trip to hell. I died a little inside when my boss told me I needed to take one more order out before I was allowed to go home. My shift ended at 9 p.m., which was closing time, and it just so happened I was the only delivery driver still on call Halloween night. I checked the time, and it was 8:54 p.m. Great, I muttered to myself. 6 minutes to spare and some jackass decided now would be a good time to order a pizza. I wanted to tell my boss I wanted to go home and sit out back by the bonfire with my family and eat chili, which was a tradition we did every Halloween. There was something about the brisk fall air that just felt beautifully on my skin. That made me look forward to Halloween night. Next to Christmas Eve, it was my favorite night of the year. Anyways, I swallowed my pride and grabbed the pizza off their shelf and hurried out the door. As I was heading out the door, my boss threw me the keys and said, "Lock up for me, will ya? I still have about an hour to take my kid out trick-or-treating. You can only do it once a year, you know." "We all have things we want to do tonight, you know," I whispered to myself angrily, and opened the door to head to my car. I saw tons of kids walking to the neighborhood behind my place of work, dressed up as ghosts and skeletons screaming excitedly to get some candy that will probably last them a couple of days. Realizing those days were behind me, I threw the pizza in the passenger door and read the address on the box. 114 Smithville Road. Where the hell is that? I've never heard of this road before, I told myself. I have been delivering pizza for 3 years in this town, and I've lived here all my life before that. My town is not that big, and I know every road, path, back road, and shortcut in the entire town. I've never heard of this road before, so I put it into my GPS. 12 minutes away. Awesome, I sarcastically told myself. I knew my family will wait for me to light the fire, which calmed me down, and started on down Main Street to get to the house. At least a 12-minute drive can give me some time to record some voice lines from my book into my cassette, I reassured myself while I was driving. What a time to be alive, a book written by Ryan Jameson, on a night that I should have been home for, instead of driving food to people who are too lazy to come pick it up themselves. I smacked the counter console of my car and clicked off the cassette as I got angrier. I realized I wasn't going to get anywhere on my book tonight. I just cruised the rest of the way until I got close to the house. I hadn't even realized where I'd been driving, because I zoned out following the GPS and found myself in a very unfamiliar area. I had no idea where I was, and the GPS read 1 minute away. Destination is on your left. I tucked the cassette into my jacket pocket, and I turned my high beams on my car to better navigate through the darkness, and eventually rolled upon what appeared to be an endlessly tall mansion. What the... Where am I? I stuttered to myself. I parked the car, grabbed my flashlight and the pizza, and started walking up the long driveway. There were fog lights on the front lawn of the house, illuminating the front of it, and I realized something. The house didn't only look endless from the car, it didn't look endless because it was endlessly tall. The mansion cut into the sky like a skyscraper, impossibly tall. Completely astonished by what I was looking at, I started to feel unsettled and uncomfortable. I couldn't explain why I felt this way in the moment, but I got a sudden urge to turn and look behind me. As I shot my head around, I realized how far away from my car I actually was. I was so far, I couldn't even see the end of the driveway or my car anymore. "What?" I said. "I haven't even been walking for that long. I left my headlights on so I could see, and even shining my flashlight doesn't show where I was parked. I was completely panicked at this. So, I started jogging up to the front door of the house, and finally, I found myself standing at the front door, looking directly up in the mansion that shot into the heavens above. I could not believe what I was seeing, and frankly, just wanted to get out of there. I knocked on the door and left the pizza on the ground, and just made a run for my car. The order was paid for, and I didn't even care if they wanted to give me a tip. All I wanted was to get out. As I was running down the driveway, I realized I wasn't actually getting any closer to the end of the driveway. This, of course, caused me to panic and run faster and faster. I couldn't even think about what was happening because it seemed so surreal. I was in a full-on sprint at this point, starting to feel an awful feeling in the pit of my stomach. Right before I was about to start running, I took one last step. Except this last step I took, my foot never hit the ground. Next thing I know, I'm falling down deeper and deeper into what seemed to be a hole in the ground. I was screaming and crying out in horror because my mind was so dumbfounded as to what was happening. After what seemed to be 10 minutes, I just stopped falling. I didn't feel myself hit the ground, or I didn't fall into a pit of water, but I found myself standing on a red light surface. Panicked, my eyes started to shoot around and dart from one area to the next. It didn't take me long to realize I was in line. I was standing in line surrounded by people screaming out for mercy, praying to God, and laying on the ground crying. I have never felt this horror in my entire life. The way I felt in this moment wasn't a feeling I didn't even know was capable for a human being. It was indescribable, and the worst I have or will ever feel. As I was trying to figure out what was going on, I heard a loud, booming voice call out from above. "Ryan, you have been ungrateful for your entire life, and have only thought about yourself. You do not deserve to see the light of day, and you will live your remaining days here." What is going on? Where am I? Who the hell was just talking? I started to hyperventilate. As I fell to the ground, I looked around to the thousands of people in front of me in line, staring back at me, laughing in unison. I started to cry right on the ground. I had no idea what was happening, and I didn't have a clue what to do. Am I in hell? I screamed out into the air. The moment I yelled this, the laughing stopped at once. I slowly stood up after this happened and yelled out again. "Well, now you want to be quiet? Am I in hell or am I dreaming? I want ants!" In the middle of my sentence, I was, what felt like, snatched up off the ground and thrown into the air. I couldn't find the effort or air to let out a scream. Instead, I just closed my eyes and accepted that this was the end. As I started falling down again, to my newly accepted fate, I stopped falling. This time, I found myself in front of a tall, metal gate. All I could hear was horrible screams that sounded like they were coming from all directions. Behind me was a room about the size of a bathtub. It didn't take long to realize that I wasn't in front of the gate. I was behind the gate, locked in. I then heard the same booming voice call out from above me. "Ryan, you will not raise your voice or ask any more questions. You do not have to understand where you are. Just know that you are never, ever getting out." The voice started crackling a horrible laugh, which faded out over time. I fell to my knees and cried. Yet again, I was exhausted and confused, and at this point, wanted to die. After crying out every last ounce of water in my body, I heard a quiet but demanding voice call out my name. "Ryan, I'm over here!" I looked up and started frantically looking around the room. "I'm up here, Ryan. Put your hands up in the air and I'll pull you out." Not knowing what was happening, I wiped the tears off of my face, threw my hands in the air, and immediately felt a set of hands grasp mine and rip me out from under my feet, sending me flying upwards. I was flying at an unnatural speed and was seemingly getting faster and faster. I must have passed out, because I don't remember feeling anything until I was thrown into the ground in what seemed to be a lab. I slowly picked my head up to see several men draped in lab coats running towards me, who started spraying me with what looked like to be a fire extinguisher. I started to scream uncontrollably, and I didn't stop until I heard the same voice that I heard from inside that cage. I quickly stopped screaming and looked at the man calling my name again. "You're okay, Ryan. You're okay now. You're safe with us. You can trust us." I saw his hand reach for mine, and I grabbed it again. I followed him into a room that I could only explain as an interrogation room that you see in movies. As he started explaining to me what the hell just happened, I finally understood where I was and what I must experienced. It's been a few months since my incident on Halloween night, and I am finally ready to explain what happened. The man that explained this to me made sure I kept it a secret, but I cannot live with myself if I don't share what happened to hopefully save someone's insanity. The man that explained everything to me was one of the special projects managers of the CIA. What he told me was that in the last 20 years, they started constructing a portal to the underworld, otherwise known as Hell. Yes, they were able to discover the existence of Hell. After a lot of botched creations, they finally created a successful portal. After the first successful mission into Hell, there was a malfunction with the portal, which caused it to explode. The explosion was covered up by the CIA, and no one ever knew about it. After this, the project was abandoned for years, until people started falling into the wormholes caused by the explosion. People who fell into these wormholes inevitably ended up in Hell. I was one of the unfortunate individuals who fell into a wormhole, after they thought they destroyed the last of them. They were able to get me out because where I live. They were investigating a huge signal that was being emitted from the area of Smithsville Road, a signal that was not achievable by any machine on this earth, or in this world. A signal they recognized to be the same signal their portal was emitting years and years ago. As soon as they found this signal, they rushed to their lab where the initial explosion took place, and worked endless hours to get me back. I didn't understand how they actually found me, but the time I spent in Hell was equivalent to around 60 seconds time on Earth. I haven't told anyone about this experience, and I told my parents my absence when I was actually stuck in a lab was due to me having to clean the kitchen at my place of work. I wonder every day if there are more people who fall into these wormholes. There is no actual way to avoid falling in. You just have to be lucky enough to never come across one. Thanks for watching, Wolfpack. If you want to catch me by the fire next time, I upload every weekend including Friday. Don't forget to like the video as it helps me out more than you know. If you want to submit your story, head down to the description. Now, here's Roken to howl you off to sleep. Have beautiful nightmares.